Okay, I think we're ready to go then. Please join palms, bow. The four great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Okay, let me go to my gallery view here. Good evening to you and good morning to some of you. Some of you it's mid-morning, some of you it's early in the morning. What we're going to talk about today is the awareness of the Bodhisattva as described by Shantideva. Shantideva, let me see if you can see that or not. This from a well-known source, Wikipedia, but in any case, Shantideva was an 8th century monk. He was from India, and he practiced at Nalanda University, known over there as NU. But in any case, he practiced there and wasn't necessarily the most popular monk there. And the nun Pema Chadron said this about it and said, Shantideva was not well liked at Nalanda. Apparently, he was one of those people who didn't like showing up for anything, never studied or coming to the practice sessions. His fellow monks said that his 3 realizations were eating, sleeping, and pooping. But in between all of that, he managed to turn out some great works. And they kept pressing him to give a lecture. And finally, he gave in and gave this lecture, which is called the Bodhisattva Karyavatara, which is a guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. And it's very, very incredible. We're not going to start from the beginning. You'll have to tune into the Chinese lectures in December for that. But I wanted to try out some of this material. And since we've been talking a lot about awareness, I thought that it would be very helpful to get this viewpoint from probably the mid 8th century. So that would be around 750 or somewhere a little bit earlier than that, CE, and see what he had to say about this. And it's quite interesting because you have to look at this from a whole different viewpoint. He's talking about it from the mind viewpoint. Everything is centered around the mind. And so when you read it, you have to understand that. So this is 8th century, but it's heavily Ekayana mind, and what I would call what he wrote was mind work. So let's see what happens with this. So we're starting with the 5th chapter. You could say chapter or section of his lecture. Bear in mind, they told him, oh, can you even lecture? and he pulls out this gem that's very, very incredible. And it may be that some of the people may not have even understood what he was playing, because this was more of not classical. It was like jazz. It was something that was very, very incredible, of a practice that he's coming up with, and it's about mind, and it's not coming from the devotional side. It's not coming from even the practice side. It's just coming and saying, you see this finger, it's not it. And if you keep looking at this finger, it's not it. You've got to go beyond that. You have to see this mind, what I always am fond of saying, of jumping in the void. And that's exactly what he's doing here with this. But let's get on. I think he kind of starts easy, and then he starts really doing some incredible work with this. So he starts, all those who wish to keep the precepts concentrate and guard their minds. If you do not protect your mind, you won't be able to keep the precepts. This is something I've been saying for a while now, that the practice that we have is the practice of mind. It is not the precepts. The precepts naturally come from the practice of mind. And that's kind of what he's saying, is if you want to keep the precepts, watch the mind. And if you don't protect the mind, you're not going to be able to keep the precepts. But protecting the mind, automatically, this the mind will keep the precepts naturally. And this is something that I've been kind of going out a little bit on the limb in terms of lecturing about this. And here I find this where he's stating this, maybe 1,200 years back, and this is from his realization, and he's speaking about this, and this is very, very profound what he's saying in terms of this. He continues, an untamed elephant running amok does not. Now just imagine if you had an elephant in your house, maybe a baby elephant, because I don't think you can fit a full-blown elephant in your house unless you have a absolute mansion. But could you imagine if you have an elephant in your house, a medium-sized elephant, what damage they would do? I mean, they could care less if they're going to bang into your big screen TV. It absolutely means nothing to them. They have no idea of the value of what they're running into. So picture that, and then say, it doesn't create as much harm here as letting the elephant of the mind run loose, and will cause in the incessant. Think about this, this mind that we use, the power of the mind. The mind, it can cause great destruction. Somebody invented all of these bombs. Somebody invented different ways to kill people over the history of mankind, humankind. It's still a man, right? But in any case, it is something that is a high priority. We have this horrible elephant in our mind creating destructions of all sorts of things. Mind. The elephant of the mind tied tight with ropes of mindfulness around, all dangers will amount to nothing. All virtues will come into your hands. So here I agree with what he says in part, and I disagree with what he says in part, but I agree in terms of what he's saying, that if we control mind, if we really can control mind, then the mind is going to settle down. It's not going to cause harm. But we don't have to wrap it up. We don't have to bind it. We don't need to use that much mind effort to do that. We just have to use awareness and govern by wisdom and compassion and just apply as needed. We don't need to take too much of that cough medicine, or you'll be finding out what's going to happen in your next life a lot earlier than you expected. So you don't have to do that. You just have to keep the mind. And when we say bind the mind, we're not really binding it as much as being aware of the product that it is producing. So what product is the mind producing? What product did your mind produce today? Did it produce good things, wholesome things? Or did it produce impatience, anger, stress? And what will be the end result of all of that? You will encounter all of those things again in the next moment, and perhaps it'll be amplified next time because of what you did this time and how your mind was there. But if we control the mind, we control the mind with wisdom and compassion. We don't need to tie it up in a tight way, but we have to be disciplined. We really need this discipline and concentration to keep the mind steady and illuminated. When our mind is steady and illuminated, it's still. And it does not cause harm to either, I would say, does not cause harm to the mind environment. So when you think about this, you have to think about this from a different viewpoint. What environment are you living in? What do you think? You living in Russia, Taiwan, Singapore, in California, New York? Is that where you're living? Is that where all of this is happening? Rather, it's all happening in mind, and he keeps bringing you back. So get used to this, because he keeps bringing you back to mind every single moment. He says, all tigers, lions, elephants, bears, snakes, and enemies, the keepers of the beings of hell, the dakinis and rakshasas. And it's kind of interesting because those dakinis and rakshasa, how do you say rakshasa?
Rakshasa.
I didn't come close on that one. Rakshasa. In any case, they can be kind of like Ashurlo, or in their ways they can be good, but feisty. And there's times and occasions when the Buddha had taught and was being listened into the king's daughter, who was Rakasha. But in any case, it can also mean to be very malevolent and something that is destined to cause you harm. By binding just this mind alone, all of these will be bound. So all of your enemies, all of the things that you fear, will be bound by you binding the mind. And again, I think the words here, when he talks about that, it is more towards the utilization of sufficient amount of concentration to enable one to keep the mind still. And so that's what he's saying is that, but you have to do that. You can't just kind of play at it. And it can be kind of like, okay, you're halfway in and halfway out. If you want to do this, you have to go all in. And that's what he's telling you. If you want to do this, the practice is going all in into mind. It's not all in and believing about the practices. It is doing it. It's something that you have to do. You have to be very, very mindful, and don't let it get away from you. So then he ends it in a very positive way. He says that all these will be tamed. For he who spoke the truth has taught, and that's the Buddha, that everything we fear, the sufferings beyond all measure, originate from the mind. So everything that we fear, all the sufferings that we have, they've all been created by the mind. Now really think about this, what he's saying, and that I always use this item as everything is created by the mind. It doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. It is just the way it is. And when we look at it, there was one, I think it was Sogo Rinpoche was asked why, or what was the meaning of the mantra. And he said, that which protects mind from mind. It's a perfect way of saying it, a correct way of saying it. And if you trust this, give it faith and utilize it, then you will not be too far from it. So it's very important, because it is saying if something arises in mind that causes fear, because this mind is the Buddha mind, then it is something that has been caused by the Buddha mind. And we're clear about that. Now, when we look at the Buddha mind, we want to give it like 5 stars, okay? And so we don't want to give any stars to that junky place down the way. So we went to Sue's place for the retreat. I give it 5 stars, okay, or 2 thumbs up, okay. But the other places, then what are we going to do? But it's all the same. You can't just judge the good. You have to judge the bad in terms of putting it there and saying, what caused that? And the ego will always tell you, oh, it must have been some other buddy. It wasn't me. But it isn't in this way. We have to be aware of causes and conditions, pratika samappada. Everything is created by the mind. So he's going right from the very beginning in this awareness, and he's putting it exactly where it should be. So this is very, very important, because people may be devotional or they may be practicing, but they're practicing in the wrong way. They're practicing from the viewpoint of the paramitas, but looking at them as something to aspire to, not something to hold on to. There's a difference. Okay, we continue. If ridding the world of poverty made generosity transcendent, there are still paupers. How could the past protectors have transcended? So he's saying, if you want to aspire to leave this place, you're leaving behind a lot of people that are still poor. So how could you transcend that? How could you turn your back on that? So it's very, very deep, because it's telling you, hey, you can leave here, but you have to really care about mind, because you're not going anywhere. Where would you go? The wish to give all of your belongings and the results to everyone is taught to be transcendent giving. And therefore, that is mind itself. We have to be careful, to say, okay, we're going to give away all our belongings, and then this is mind itself. The mind is in this way, but what we focus on in terms of giving is that which will make this place a better place, a harmonious place to be, a pure land. And where could fish, etc., be sent where they would not be killed? Disciplines taught to be transcendent from gaining the intent to abstain. So here we have this altruistic way of protecting the fish, but we can't protect the fish and have a tuna fish sandwich. It is something that we have to understand, that we have to have this intent to abstain. We can't just talk it. It's not so easy. No, I see people, and I see people that are vegans, meat eaters, vegetarians, and 50-50 vegetarians. So you have to see what category are you in? Are you a vegetarian, or are you 50-50 vegetarian, or whatever? But we see things in this way because he's saying, hey, even the fish, if you really want to protect the fish, then you have to abstain. I'm not going to say any of you, if you're eating meat or whatever, you're going to hell. That's you practice in your own accord and your own ability to practice. No, there's so many other things that are involved here, but we try to do our best. Okay. How could one kill belligerent beings who are as infinite as space, vanquishing this one angry mind is like defeating all of those foes? So who is your enemy? Who do you fear? But if we truly can control mind, then all of the foes will evaporate. They are mind, brought forth from mind. But if we understand that, we can make a change, because it's not just a negative, it's a positive. Everything's created by the mind. So what we do is we try to get the mind to see things in mind's way, not from the ego. This is actually very, very easy, but you have to buy into it. You have to have this kind of awareness at all times to be able to make this work. How could there be sufficient leather to cover the earth entirely? This is a very strange thing that he's saying, to cover the earth with leather. And he says, with just the leather for my shoes, it's as if the whole world is covered. This one kind of really hit me. We have leather couches and leather in our cars and a leather purse and shoes, you name it, that things are made of leather. And so he's saying, look at this the way it is, don't look at it in such an altruistic way. And you have to take responsibility. You have to know that that's being put into the mind. Every time you buy something that's leather, you are covering the earth with leather. And again, I'm not trying to make judgments or say I'm on this side and you guys are on that side. No, I'm just saying that this is awareness. It's something that if you really want to practice it, that has to be there. It's kind of shocking for us because it's kind of like getting a report card on how we're doing in life. Anybody passing? So, I mean, so it means that we have a lot of work to improve. Mark, why is your wife looking at you so suspiciously?
I was just commenting that to her that everything we do is somehow against nature. Everything we consume, or everything that is surrounded by us is a product of nature in some context, or a product of mind. So I guess we all fail.
Yeah, it's something in terms of how we look at it. It is in this way. So don't feel bad, but this should kind of make us a little bit of uncomfortable, but more that we start measuring how much more we need to bring forth in our practice. Okay, and so let's see, we continue on. Likewise, although I am unable to keep external things at bay, I'll keep this mind of mine in check. What need to ward off anything else? Right again, he's going to it and saying, just mine. And saying, yeah, there's all sorts of adversities that come up in your life. No, I may anybody today have a perfect day where nothing bad happened to them? It was like so perfect that the birds were chirping outside, wake up, wake up, wake up. And then you go there and you didn't spill anything. You didn't get anybody angry. You didn't get impatient. No, it is like as if you were Snow White waking up in the forest with all the animals around you. But if we control the mind, we can handle it. We won't suffer so much with it. But if we don't, it's going to be like Groundhog Day again tomorrow morning. The alarm clock's going to go off. You're going to throw it, halfway to China, or at least across the room. And your day's going to start off miserably. Or we have a choice. We have a choice. We can choose the Buddha mind. And if we do, we know first thing is that choosing the Buddha mind does not give us a free pass, that we may have a flat tire, but we know that that just happens. Whatever is going on and whatever you need to do to command things, it can be that way. But Shifu used to say that we are not governed by the environment. We govern the environment. It's very important to understand that in any given moment, we have control of the environment. Maybe things are all out of kilter or whatever, but it's what we do, say, or think in the next moment that determines whether we're on the path or not. Think about that. The Buddha's in the present moment. It's yours to lose. You lost. Okay, get back into the Buddha mind, and you play again. Not bad. And you understand that if you play lazily, then your life around you will reflect how poorly you play. But if you play well, if you're patient, understanding, loving, then the environment around you will change. Sometimes it changes very quickly. Sometimes it changes very slowly. Sometimes you don't even know how much it has changed in terms of things. But if you trust in mind, it will have a great impact, a positive impact. Even with body and speech, results of feeble conduct are not like the fruit of arousing one clear thought. Rebirth in such as Brahma's realm, this is kind of a little bit confusing, but essentially what is being said is that, and in here he's tying in because he was talking about this, I'll keep this mind of mine to check. But now he brings in the body aspect of it and the speech aspect of it to say those two also have to fall in line. And if you're weak in your practice, it will show in whatever you're doing. You're thinking things, but then words come out that affect. Generally, things that you think about will not have an immediate effect on the environment, but it does if it governs your speech and your actions. And so if it does that, then that's where, if you're weak with your practice, you're not going to get anywhere. If you're stronger, you may end up in a Brahma's realm, which is like a heaven where you can practice if you want, but it's not necessarily bad. But again, you have to put the effort in.
Gilbert, I think that the Brahma's realm, that's talking about the four immeasurables, the practicing the Brahma Viharas, they are called Brahma Viharas, Maitri or Metta, compassion, equanimity, and appreciative joy. So that's the fruit of rousing one clear thought is as much as.
Essentially, and then what they're talking about in terms of the rebirth is just that moment to moment to moment is a rebirth in mind. I mean, you can be reborn in that kind of a realm if you practice sincerely, and it doesn't necessarily mean there is an actual place where they're there, although we use those kinds of concepts sometimes in the practice, but it is in the present moment where the mind will be protected, and that's important, rather than trying to seek a locale of a place. No matter how long they are practiced, all liturgies and austerities are futile. Interesting. Remember, he's saying all liturgies and austerities, your practice, they're futile. This is very dangerous to say or to write unless you're clear about why they're futile. Said the knower of suchness. You see, it's coming from a different viewpoint. It's coming from mind itself. So from mind itself, and it looks at it and says, these practices, they're not going to get you there if you hold on to them, or these austerities, you abstain from this or abstain from that, or you practice this or whatever, they're not going to get you there. The true suchness, the realization of the true suchness of mind is where all the realizations are, where all the power of the mind is located on, I should say, positive power of mind, because the power of mind can also produce negative or unwholesome events depending on what you put into mind. Those, and then he says, let me reread that one part. Are futile, said the knower of suchness, if something else distracts the mind. So if you're practicing and your mind is distracted, then those practices aren't that good. It's very interesting. In the retreat settings, I always separate the men and the women, because naturally in our DNA, men will be attracted to women, women will be attracted to men, not as much as men think, but there's still some interest there. Okay. And the thing is that, let's say you're doing walking meditation and there's somebody there that interests you. How good is your practice at that moment? What are you putting into your mind in a Chan hall and you're doing that? Of course, none of you that ever happened ever before, or was, doesn't necessarily have to be sexual. It could be just some interest in something. And I remember Shifu, in one of the early retreats, we're seated at this long table at CMC, and that we ate in the basement. And he would say, because he would be at the one end of the long table, sort of, I guess, the seat of honor. It was Shifu's place. I found out the first time I went down to the basement because I sat in his chair and everybody was all nervous about that. And I just thought I was just sitting in a chair because it was not, I was tired, whatever. And they're going, but you can't sit there. You can't, what? You can't sit there. They couldn't even bring me up to tell me that's Shifu seat. Nobody sits in Shifu seat. I didn't know. But it was his at the end of the table looking down. And he would finally one day, because when people are going to the retreat, because the table's very, very long, just imagine that. And the people are there and they're eating, and they would, and if Shifu was sitting over there, they'd go, just kind of like kept looking. Finally, Shifu banged on the table and says, "Stop it." And people go, "What?" He goes, "Why you keep looking at me?" He goes, "There's nothing to see here. I'm just an old man. I'm not a clown to entertain you. Why do you have so much interest in watching what I do?" And everybody's like kind of like getting lower in their seat. But this too is a distraction. This is something that is not a proper practice. And Shifu was reminding us, when we eat, we just eat. We silence the mind. We don't have to be looking for some kind of stimulation in what we do. And so it was a very good lesson that was explained about that, because it was very, very important. It wasn't trite. It was keeping your mind on eating, keeping your mind still. And that's not easy in a retreat, because normally we have our method and stuff, and we don't have the method per se when we're eating, but it's important to keep the method. What method do we keep? We keep the method of concentration, of mindfulness on the mind, as to what is coming into the mind, what is arising in the mind, and only keeping what's wholesome and that serves a function in mind. We don't have to chase after any kind of sensations or curiosities or whatever. But people do that, and you have to guard your mind, concentrate. This is awareness of the mind. So these all appear to be very trivial, but in totality, it is awareness of the mind in everything that you are engaged in. Can we continue on? So now it does make sense why they say, no matter how much liturgy you do, all your austere practices, what good is it, when you don't really do it in the proper way? Those who don't know the secret of mind, the sublime paramount of dharmas, want to gain joy and end suffering, but wander to no avail or end. So Do you guys know what the secret is? Do you know? Anybody want to tell me what the secret is? The shortcut. Come on, you paid your money to get in, so you might as well try to find out what is the secret that he's talking about. Nobody knows. You see how strong your egos are. You're not even willing, even if you were right, you're not willing to get your fist out of that squash to be saved. You want to hold on to that nut. And what's that nut? That nut is your appearance of being very good practitioner and not making any mistakes. So you just have a silly smile on your face and don't answer, because that's the safest thing. You tell that to King Yama when you run into him, and you just, I don't know how I got here. Honestly, I don't know how. It was a mistake. I should have been a Christian. Well, in that case, then you have to stay here for the rest of your everlasting life. Okay, I maybe I'll go back to being a Buddhist. Is that what you want to do? What is the secret?
Just mind?
Just mind what?
There's no secret.
Hi, where's that parrot at? No, that's Rong Chen. Is that you? Who spoke up? Nobody. Now, no. Oh, it is Robert. There you are.
There is no secret. You're just confused.
Where did the confusion come from?
You, the I.
Hi, does anybody want to confess his sin?
Causes and conditions never fail.
Causes and, well, at least you're kind of rolling around the periphery of it. Okay, Sentha, you have that kind of like I ate the bird cat look. You tell me.
Just this mind is the Buddha mind.
Just this mind is the Buddha mind.
Patira Samuppada.
I'll keep giving you guys half credits for that.
Yeah.
See, now you said it, now everybody's going to want to say it. Come on, there's one obvious point, the secret of everything.
Ekayana?
To know the arising mind is the non-arising mind.
To know then you guys are just spewing out things. You're not really thinking about it. He's already talked about this. This is important. Please, please, please don't make me look like such a failure. Please, somebody must know.
Awareness.
Awareness. Well, that's what we're learning, but what is the secret to awareness? I'm going to make you guys look bad now. I hate to do this, but let me see.
Causes and condition never fail.
It's the third time.
You guys really don't know? Everything is created by the mind. Everything is created by the mind. You have to know that. That's why they put that in the Chan liturgy. First time I'm reading it. To know all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, perceive that all Dharma Dhatu nature is created by the mind. Huh? What? I don't even know what Dharma Dhatu nature is. I certainly don't know what mind is. It's all created by the mind. This is so important. You have to understand that. That's what he's banging you on the head with. He's really banging at this. The secret. Everything is created by the mind. That's why it can't be said that it's sacred or impure. Remember,
I have that now.
I'm sorry. Let's hear some grumblings. Hi. I would think that you would be getting the aha moment and say, aha, I understand this. And you go, what? It's just that? Come on, guys. You have to know this. All created by the mind, everything. This is what is so important, because when you look in the mind, what do you see? Do you see phenomena? Even if you saw phenomena, where are you seeing the phenomena at? In mind. How did it come into being? Is there a devil somewhere, Mara, that causes all of these problems that the Buddha created? This Mara? Did the Buddha create Mara? Answer the question. Okay, Santa, this is your time to shine. Did the Buddha create Mara?
Mind created Mara.
So that means Buddha created Mara too.
By, let's see, Michael, is that mathematically correct? If A creates B and C and A are the same, would you say C created B?
It's all in mind. It's a balance. It's a play of balance. So if there's ignorance, there's Mara, and Mara and ignorance are part of mind. So it's causes and conditions due to separation, illusory separation.
So who created Mara?
Wrong view, attachment.
Mind created it. Mind created it. Mind can, I don't know if it can uncreate it, but it can uncreate the appearance of it. So I'm really hitting you with this because this is mind work. If you understand this aspect, this is why he's saying this, is that if you practice, and another master said, if you practice the virtues and you practice all of the other stuff there, that is the second way of practicing. Okay. And so it doesn't have to be that way. That kind of practice will finally get you to a place where you say, everything is created by the mind. This is the secret. Because you apply that to everything, it fits. That's why Pratika Samappada fits. All of the things that happen fit. It has to. There can't be something outside of mind that is evil or profane. We see these things as transitory, illusory, but they are created in the mind. This is very, very important, because whatever's there and however it was created, and you have the Buddha mind, you can make it disappear. You can't make it disappear and say, okay, well, it's there in the past, present, and future. But in Buddha mind, these issues are all resolved. But you can't do it separating yourself from the Buddha mind. You already have it. Remember, I've been telling you that for I don't know how many years. I guess the best thing is that most of you don't come to me with experiences that you have most of the time, and I'm pretty nice about that. Or it could be that my teachings are such that nobody ever gets an experience out of it. But I don't believe that. I believe that you've been moving along and moving forward. You have to have this faith in the practice. If you have the faith, then the secret remember the secret, okay? Remember, it's all created by the mind. This is something that is, I guess, I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe I've been instructed to tell you this, but this has just been going on in my head for about a week now at nighttime. And it's important for you to get this part, to get this secret. Okay. Thus, I will grasp and protect well this mind of mine, this discipline of guarding mind, aside. Why bother with the multifarious disciplines? So he's saying, I'm going to protect this mind. This mind is my mind, not Gilbert's mind, but mine. And I'm going to protect it. And he says, this discipline of guarding mind, aside from that, what other practices could be more effective than to understand mind, knowing that everything is created by the mind? If you start there and understand this is your mind, Paloma, you have Buddha mind. Protect it all the time. There will be times when you fall down, but it's okay. Just come back to mind. Just keep coming back. It's important. Like those in a boisterous crowd, concentrate and take care of their wounds. Those in the crowds of evil people should always guard the wound of mind. So how many times have you had situations in your life that have been uncomfortable? They've really hurt bad. They're a wound in your mind. And you have to tend to that wound. Just like somebody, if they had cut their leg, they have to tend to it. The wounds in your mind, you have to guard them. You have to see them. Some people, they go crazy because they can't understand that. Some people get suicidal because they don't know how to guard their mind from wounds. Not anybody goes through this without having some kind of wounds in their mind. But it's okay, because the mind is like a self-cleaning oven or self-healing. If you have faith in it, it will protect you. It may not protect you from adversity if your karma is bad, but at least it will protect you from the suffering. So if you are careful of a wound, the other day I did a real stupid thing, and I was cutting a kiwi with a very sharp fruit slicer, peeler, and I cut the tip of my finger. I literally just kind of cut the skin straight off, just like if it was a part of the peel. So it hurt. And I just took care of it. And actually the cure was harder to take than the cut itself. You put that new skin on it, a kind of a plastic thing that's kind of has probably a lot of alcohol or something. But it works. We take care of our body that way, right? It wouldn't be like I was just walking around the house bleeding all over. You take care of it. You're going like, my son might say, well, Dad, why is your hand bleeding like that. Why don't you take care of it? Well, it makes sense. We want to take care of that, And when we're kids, or if you had kids, you would put a bandage on them, kind of their badge of courage, and maybe a couple extra ones that make them feel good. But the big wounds, the real deep wounds, we ignore. We don't take care of them. We experience them and keep a stiff upper lip, but we don't take care of it. So this is what he's saying here. If you are careful of a wound from the fear of its slight minor pain, why not protect the wound of mind from fear of crushing mountains in hell? So you imagine, if you're already fainting because you sliced a little bit of skin off of your finger, what it would be like to be crushed in hell. Why wouldn't we think about that as a possibility? Or all the wounds we carry with us in this lifetime, all the suffering we don't need to have. It's extra. We don't need it. It would be like somebody going up Mount Everest, and they're dragging behind them their Louis Vuitton suitcase with all of their extra clothing, including t-shirts and all sorts of stuff, and taking it up the mountain. It wouldn't make sense. Why would you be suffering? It's hard enough to climb, and now you're carrying all this excess baggage with you. You don't need it. But you do take care of your finger and little tiny cuts, but we don't really address the deep ones. This is where the mind's work comes in. Living by conduct such as this, a steadfast monk who keeps his vows, whether in crowds of evil people, never mind, I'm not even going to read it. And whether in crowds of evil people, will not fall. I'd have to read this in two different ways. Whether a monastic who keeps his vows, whether in crowds of evil people, or men or women, will not fall. So essentially saying that if you can keep your vows and concentrate on that, then you will not fall. You're not going to fall to the lower realms. And so, in the depths of despair, maybe suicidal, maybe depressed, maybe alcohol, whatever, you're not going to fall into those. It would be better to lose my things, life, limbs, respect, or livelihood, better than other virtues lapse, than ever my intent diminish. So he's saying, I'd rather lose everything, even my limbs, if only I can keep my intent, my mind intent, my conviction to go forward, my faith to practice. And then in this way, I can give up the other part, but I could not give up this. I join my palms in prayer and urge all those who wish to guard their minds with all their efforts, please protect your mindfulness and your awareness. So we'll stop there for the night. Probably got about 25% of the way through, but it's still not bad. And I did find this to be very helpful in terms of presenting things. This part was very interesting because I didn't bring on a cast of characters of things I had to explain. I really wanted to stay with the central message of everything created by the mind. And the practice is mind. if you understand that, then you go a long way. But if you're trying to maintain some kind of a standard, that's the second alternative, and it's the lesser alternative of practicing mind. So we'll leave it right there, and I'll open it up to questions. Harry's. Oh, wait, Paloma's up first.
So when you were saying all is created by mind and we must protect the Buddha mind, and the question that popped in my mind is something that has been popping very, very frequent. So who is protecting the Buddha mind?
Very good. It's mind is protecting mind. You have to be able to separate out the persona, the personality or ego that is created by the mind. It is not an individual soul or life and being. It's mind protecting mind. And when we get there, the thing that I've experienced is essentially that it is just this way. It's like mind, not you, mind, looking at this gossamer curtain that has ever-changing patterns, but you see right through it. You see right through that. And what do you see on the other side? Mind. It's very, very interesting. It is a skill set of practice. Without practicing virtue, but nevertheless is much more powerful, because in it contains all wholesome activities. And if we see everything in this way, that it's all created by the mind, we just understand all of those things are projected on this gossamer curtain, including you and your mental impressions and sensations and anything related to the skandha, including form.
So I'm protecting that too.
Yeah, mind is projecting mind. So you see those things as they are. You see through the idea of a separate life and being. So when we say I, we have to be very careful that this I is mine. He didn't disregard that. In Shantideva didn't disregard it. He would say sometimes you have to do this, but it's not the you of an ego. It is the collective you of mind. Keep going. I mean, you always have these, and they're very, very good. I mean, you've been doing that for many years. You just have to keep kind of jamming away at this, and it's from your past practices and practices in Tibetan practice or whatever. I mean, these are the things that you need to look at, and then you'll see that it'll come clearer and clearer. Remember, he said if you have one clear thought, you can break down all of these other impressions. Anything else? Okay.
I'm going to chew on that.
Yeah, I knew she had some talent way back when she'd ask me questions like this. It's very important. I think Harry was up before the others, so you get to the root of the problem.
Yeah. So Gilbert, you're often talking about the wounds, and of course we're interested in suffering, but it certainly happens that sometimes you go to the grocery store, you pick up vegetables, you bring them home, you cook them, you eat dinner, and you go to bed. All of that, every single moment of that is mind. And Chekhov said that any idiot can get through a crisis, but it's day-to-day living that grinds you down. So I'm just trying to highlight that we often talk about everything as mind when there's some, seemingly salient event, but just lying down, turning over in bed, that's mind, right? Everything. It's not just the, cutting your finger. It's every moment.
It is what we say that mind can be found in the ordinary and mundane is very important. Rather than trying to excuse me, find something that is super mundane, what good is that going to do you? It's still a dream. So it is just this effort that we put to apply mind at all times that clarifies what you're doing here. No, what the heck are you doing here? No. And if you don't try that, that's where you can end up finding yourself in the belly of a cow or a donkey because you don't have a clue about it. But when you are looking at it, whether it's Paloma asking who's the you or you asking what you're doing, then this is the practice. This is very, very important to have this kind of a practice. And everything you're saying is just as it is. It is in the mundane that we see the Buddha. Because what was the secret?
Created by the mind.
Everything's created by the mind. Remember that. Okay. All right. Let's see. I think Wendy is next, at least in how I'm reading them on the thing.
Okay, thank you. I was very taken by, so you say we take care of the deep wounds of our suffering, or mine, I say from my own. So you say it's mental impression projected. So it's not real. Like depression or sadness or suicide, all those, like how do you take care of it? Just by knowing it's not real, by knowing it's
well, people who are really seriously depressed or suicidal, obviously they need to go to talk to a good therapist. I wouldn't, it would be saying, oh, it's all created by the mind, don't worry about it, when they're standing with their legs over the side of the bridge. We try to get before that so that we don't get into that condition like that. And we begin to see things, and our disease, our true mind disease is trying to placate the ego. When we try to placate the ego, what happens is that we end up trying to make this a perfect world, which we know it isn't. We know, and this is why this particular realm is a perfect practice place, because it's not all perfect. It's not heaven where there's no need to practice. This has a mixture of both heaven and hell in it. And when we see the causes and conditions, it begins to help us explain what we're doing, understanding, what is happening, why it is happening. And if we have a chance like that to understand why things are happening, it really makes a difference in terms of our being able to handle things, because we analyze it. We're no longer just simply trying to say, I feel so miserable. This is a miserable place. I don't belong here. You see it and you say, yeah, you're exactly belonging in where you're at, but it's not all bad. There's a lot of crummy stuff that happens to people, but at least this place presents a place for a great opportunity to practice. If you continue to feel sorry for yourself or become depressed, it's clear that you will go further and further into depths of despair by concentrating on that, rather than seeing that there is some some positive things that can come out of it. You just have to see that it can turn around. I remember once telling that to somebody who was very despaired and said, you know, it can't get too much worse, and then it got worse. And the only thing I could say, well, you know, it always happened in threes. That's the last, and giving them hope, which they got out of it. I mean, and they're able to dig themselves out and be a very loving, wonderful person that could have in that moment have ceased their life just simply because they felt like there was no other way out. And we do things that don't seem to be logical in our life, in terms of that you cherish life so well, but then you want to kill yourself, you know, or that you want to walk around in depression. Of course, like I mentioned, you have to have good people to work with you, but you too can also help people by giving them some encouragement and seeds for contemplation about what they perceive to be a weakness. Not always easy, but follow your heart, Wendy, and anytime you see that, you know, even if it's you, you know, just kind of you talk yourself into it, talk yourself out of it. Okay. I'm not saying any of that belongs to you. I'm just saying that in the future, whatever it is. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let me see. Now, Robert, you're talking again?
Yeah,
All right.
I have a question. Isn't our daily practice actually in every moment we should practice to protect our mind from mind? Because our eye, our ears, our senses is receiving all these messages. And one part of the mind is creating so much ignorance. As a result, causes of condition never fail. If we don't protect our mind every moment, we're likely to fall into this never-ending nightmare or never-ending dream. So we're trying to, our practices protect us from going back into the dream. Because that dream is like my hand. This side is the dream. This side is the mind. This side is, the mind side is fall asleep. We're trying to protect it. We're trying to save this side, the mind, from always turning the other wrong side up. Because this side is creating so much illusion from our senses. And we fall into it so easily. And we follow it, all this arising, non-arising, arising. And we never, it's like the never-ending nightmare. So we're trying to, the practices, trying to protect our mind. But in a way, try through awareness, trying to allow it to wake up, or trying not to have the dream, to keep on like running the show. Isn't that the daily practice?
Yeah, but let me tweak your practice a little bit. And that's why I was using the example. When we talk about the inquiry of matching halves, it isn't that the phenomena is the other side of the matching halves of the knowing aspect of mind. What is the other half? Anybody know? What is the other side of mind?
I guess it's the other portion of the mind trapped in the illusion.
Is what?
It's the other portion. It's a small portion of the mind trapped in the illusion.
So it can't be the half. So it is like what I was talking to you about. We have the knowing aspect of the mind, and we have the Dharmakaya, where appearances come from, but the appearances are not the other half. It's very important for you. The appearances in mind are such an insignificant, small aspect of mind. We're dealing with an infinite mind, and you have to match up an infinite Dharmakaya, that which has happened, that which is happening, and that which will happen. It has to be infinite. So you're giving the self too much credit to be half. It is rather what I was talking about, this gossamer curtain. Let's say if you're here, this gossamer curtain, this translucent curtain, that you can see through, very fine, but projected on it via the mind's own light are images, phenomenal images that are there, but they're just wisp. They're illusory. Like you said, they're a dream. They cannot compose the other half of the mind. This is the mind ground, the Dharmakaya. And that looks at it is the attentive aspect of mind. That's the knowing mind aspect. In between is this curtain. So don't give it too much credence to say it's the other half. It is not the other half. The Dharmakaya presents the potentiality of all things that could possibly happen. It will produce it in one way or another, whether it's the Yogacara school saying that there's bija seeds that come in and create this, or you don't need the bija seeds. It still will be that way. It's all created by the mind. And when we see things in this way, it changes it. So we see it correctly. This is so important, so that you don't give too much weight to the phenomenal world. It is really so infinitesimally tiny, not just Earth, not just the solar system, not the galaxy or the universe after universe after universe. Those are still like a grain of sand in the Ganges River. We have to see things in this way. Once we understand the vastness of mind, we have the power of mind to change things, not just for ourselves, but for all that are trapped on this veil. And so when we see that, we see right through it. That's what I'm asking you to do, is always see right through it. Of course, you still function under the rules of the samsaric world, but you know the difference. That's what's important, is to know the difference. That is the knowing aspect of the mind, not the ego, not you, but the knowing aspect of the mind that says, in this world, yes, Buddha mind is present, and we'll set it into this direction. But there's no I, me, mine in that. Okay. Yulia, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So, well, you partially answered my question, because my question was more about, we've always been talking that mind is dispassionate, doesn't discriminate, mind creates everything. So the suffering is illusory. And now we're talking about that we have to, well, and you just said that mind will protect us from suffering. But now we're talking about us protecting the mind. So it's like, why and what are we protecting the mind from? So to me, it's like, what are we doing then to the mind that can hurt the mind if mind does not suffer?
This body is very precious. It enables us to express things, and to other bodies that we see, understanding that the other bodies that believe that they are sentient beings, that they're thinking, are nevertheless the body and the consciousness is created by the mind. We use this body kind of like an ant with their feelers touching other ants in the colony. And the ants pick up the message and they go and they spread it to other ants and saying, this colony is not real. But that which got the message is. That's the Ratna clan, the absolute clan, the Buddha mind. And we then do not try to invest in self-love, self-conceit, self-centrism. This body is like an organism, like in an ant colony, for the benefit of all of the ants in the colony, even though those ants are dream ants. But what's behind them is the slumbering Buddhas that are trapped in this. So we see things, but we do not, by virtue of using it and using the convention of saying you, it isn't you, this corporal flesh, but we use this corporal flesh to communicate. But it is through this mind energy or esoteric that the true knowledge of mind comes to being. If you leave it to Gilbert to explain it, he can explain it to a certain extent, but without the heart of the Buddha mind, the lesson again is secondary in its effect. When we see things clearly and just resign ourselves to do that, that's where the changes are made. Great changes are made. There's so much incredible power in the mind, but not in the body. Ask the body to fly, it can't fly. And no, it's limited in its hearing range. It's limited in its ability to live, in terms of temperatures or whatever. So we see it and we use it, but when we say we throw that out, we don't throw mind out. That's what's important. That's what you have to contemplate. You guys are all asking the right questions, because this is very, very important in the manner in which we approach the practice. Okay, any other questions? Did I miss anybody?
Gilbert, I have a question.
I know.
You know.
Didn't you see me looking at you?
I remember in the retreat you talk about, you share the story with us, one of your clients, that
the gypsy?
No, you were talking about, you had mentioned The Secret, the book. Basically,
yes,
talking about the law of attractions.
Yes.
And I think that is one of the very popular books. So I think you are talking about the same thing, everything created by mind. I know you, I just want you to comment on, I assume you you mentioned it was a wrong view for your clients to follow that. So can you elaborate on this point? Because they also exercise everything created by the mind.
Yes.
I read the book. By the way, I did read the book.
Why do you think that you have such a successful camp that you made there on the side of the mountain? Do you think it was just simply that you put your mind to it? you see, the thing is that you did that. This is all because you practiced so sincerely for so many years that has to exist, and you do not have to endure so much negative karma with it. The secret one, where they say everything's created by the mind, is nonsense in the manner in which it's produced. And even I predicted that person would all blow up in their face, because the karma was too strong for them to have that. And the reason is because there's one aspect of that they're missing, which is pratika samappada, causes and conditions never fail. And so you just can't simply wish for something. You have to set into motion whatever you want to put in there. You can't just sit there like a dreamer on a couch and then expect that, you know, you're going to win the Nobel Prize for peace, never getting off of your couch. It is because you did it. You did it. You set into motion those things. And they, because of the causes and conditions, are favorable to you. You are able to do that. Not everybody can do that. But the difference is understanding that the causes and conditions have to be present in order for you to do something. If they're not present, then no matter how much you wish, it's not going to work. So if somebody's saying, I want to be a famous artist, I want to be a famous artist, I want to be a famous artist, but they do not have the requisite skills, or they don't practice enough, or their heart is only based on what they want to accomplish, then the chances of them succeeding are not there. That's where the secret falls. It's not just wishing and wishing and wishing. This is like Walt Disney. You know, you might as well go out every night and wish upon a star. That would be the same effectiveness. You did it because you did it. You put into mind the things necessary to do it, and you walk that walk, and the karma was there. So if somebody has a bad karma, then these things will not come to them. Or even if they get it, the mounting karma behind that will destroy them. And so when you see it, it is not just simply saying everything's created by the mind. I'm mind, so I can do this. No, you have to practice. You have to have it. You have to have the things that are wholesome to put into mind to be able to practice. When we do that, you're the prime example of how effective it can be. But if we just simply want to wish on things, maybe if we have good karma or we have powerful karma, for whatever reason we saved up a bunch, we can use it maybe for once and then it's gone. But we have to understand it's all created by the mind. So we have to understand pratika samappada, the 12 nidanas. When we understand that, then we're doing mind work. And that will work. That's why it worked for you, where it wouldn't work for somebody else, because it was me, but not putting in the other effort. And it's just like a very easy way, because no matter what, if you write a book like that and you sell 1 million copies, there's bound to be 1,000 people that will swear that was that work for them, and then they'll sell another 1 million copies. But it's still a negative karma to do something like that, to take money from people and prey upon their wishes, knowing that it's not that way. I mean, you can't just be that naive, you know, with it. I just have a very strong opinion about that, of the deception to do things like that. Not you, I'm talking about the author of the book. And in the end, he ended up getting sued because he killed some people on an Indian reservation. He put them in a sweat lodge, but he didn't use natural things. He put plastic wrap around them and he just cooked them like a tamale. And so that So much for the secret. All right, I'm off the bandwagon. So, but anyway, it's something, you know, to me, I thank you for the question because it's an important one. It's not just simply saying, I wanna. That's not how it is. It's that one understands how it works.
So the missing piece is the cause and conditions, but it's still the everything is created by the mind. That part is true. Of course, the cause and condition needs to be there, and that's the other part of equations.
And that's important. And also, whatever it is, you know, you have to be careful. If you want to take things from people, you know, sell a book and take $10 from them, you know, you're going to have to pay that back somewhere along the line if what you're selling is not wholesome and it's a deception.
I don't know much about the author of that book, but I thought the point that he was telling was the kind of related to law of attractions. And I think that it's one of the law that universal laws, I believe personally. I think that that works. Of course, the other part needs to be there too. But, you know, you attract the people or the energy, attract the similar energies or repel.
Sometimes
right?
sometimes that's the way, like, it's not a mistake that everybody's here, you know, because everybody has these similar interests and it resonates. Yes, that's the way it is. No, but in the manner which is being presented, you know, in the secret, it is only a half truth and a dangerous half truth at that. So, but anyway, so you have to be careful. No, if you guys ever want to do that, just send me the $10 and I'll tell you the secret. What was the secret? Everything's created by the mind, right? So that's the real secret. So you can tell everybody that.
Actually, I want to tell you a secret. When you asked a question, I knew the answer. I didn't say it.
We don't know that. Next time, push your hand up. See, that's your ego. That's your ego wanting to you know, that's like Shen Shu. I'm going to call you Shen Shu from now on because you put it on the wall and say, if people like it, then I'll lay claim to it. If not, then they won't know I said it. But it's okay, you know. But that's why I want people to put that down, you know, and just answer the question. Maybe you're half right, you know, you get partial credit. Even if you're wrong, I never try to ridicule you, except for Robert. But other than that, you know, you know, you're all okay. You know, I'm sort of kidding you, Robert, right? Yeah. So, all right, good enough then. We'll finish for the night. Thank you all for attending. We'll keep on this. I'm kind of using it as a way in terms of interpreting some realizations that have been coming my way lately. And so I'm kind of reading it with that kind of a shading, but I don't have to shade too much. It wasn't by accident that I ran into this particular book about bodhisattvas. That it was clearly something that was heading my way. So stay good. Don't act like bodhisattvas, but place your mind in the Buddha mind. Amitabha. See you next week.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Amitabha. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you,
Bye.
Gilbert.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.